what has been the smallest deal that you guys have brokered?
We actually created an award for that last year. The total fee was a few $100s, so we did that just for fun. But we closed just under $1.6 billion in land last year overall.
Hey there and welcome. Jack Bosch speaking here, and welcome to the #1 source for real estate and financial information. Great to have you here at our podcast episode. Today we are talking to Clint and Jason from National Land Realty. Now, these guys are a powerhouse in land sales, in land development, everything having to do with land from a point of view of a broker and being able to match you up with developers and things like that. So welcome, first of all, to the show.
Thanks for having us.
All right, so we are at the conference right now with about 200 of the top real estate investors in the entire country. Now, we prepared this for 2 microphones, so we only have 2 microphones, so you guys have to hand the microphone back left and right a little bit over. I hope that's okay, but I think we'll manage. So why don't you go ahead and introduce yourself a little bit, give us a little bit of background, what National Land Realty does and what you guys, all the breadth of things that you guys do.
Sure. So my name is Jason Walter. I'm the founder and CEO of National Land. And basically just throughout, my background was in development, and I always found it difficult to find good land brokers to help finding the sites that we wanted to develop. So I created a company to fill that void back in 2007. And then Clint, he's been our top broker for the last 7 or 8 years, as long as he's been with us since 2015. So we broker land. You think of a residential brokerage firm like Coldwell Banker or Keller Williams. We're like that, but we don't sell houses. We just sell land. So we're on the land side. Usually bigger tracts of land. Our average transaction is about 80 acres. But we sell thousands of acres and we sell small lots. So we cover anything land.
How many states are you active in?
We're actually licensed in 48 states now. It just happened last week.
Great. So you specialize in land. Now, here's a cool thing. And you're one of the brokers and the top performing broker, apparently, and a partner in the business. So now, one of the things I always talk about to our audience here is that there is a huge difference between a house broker and a land broker. Can you dive into it from your point of view? What is one of the key differences, and either one of you, what are some of the key differences between a land listing or how to sell a piece of land versus how to sell a house?
Well, the main thing from an agent standpoint is just understanding the land. Houses tend to be more equitable from site to site. Can get a little complicated, but that's our specialty, where other agents, residential is their specialty. Beach condos, commercial, what have you, warehouse, all those different niches. And what happens with land is they don't understand soils, they don't understand site quality, they don't understand wetlands, all the things that can greatly affect the value of land. But if you don't know what you're looking at, it all looks the same to you from a retail point of view. So if you're misrepresented or underrepresented, is the way I like to put it, you can lose a lot of money on both the acquisition and the disposition side. So having an expert on your side to help with that can really increase your margins.
So let's talk about residential land first. So a residential lot out there, what I find, we have done over 4,500 land flips or land wholesale transactions and land seller finding transactions, is that most real estate agents are house trained. So they're trained how to do an open house. Mm-hmm. They're trained how to perhaps stage a house. They're trained how to make sure that the owners put all the personal stuff away into the closet so there's less clutter around. None of these things you can do on land, really. I mean, right. You can do a little bit. You can perhaps, if it's really brush everywhere, you can have somebody remove it to make it a little clearer. But the biggest thing that land realtors don't know, or house realtors don't know how to do, is how to create the dream of what's possible.
The story.
The story.
Right.
So go ahead. Tell us a little bit about the story.
There's that analogy of you can't see the forest for the trees. There's a lot to that in the land business, to where it is important to dress a property up as much as you can. Access is something that I say that's critical, meaning some type of road or access point where you can really get in there and feel the property, depending on what size property we're talking about here, but so that you can make a connection with it, whether that's aesthetics or understanding the possibilities out there for your family, whether that's a residential site or a second home site or a recreational site, and being able to both show a buyer that and also articulate that and from a marketing standpoint is critical.
You're right. Now, I love what you said. You used some very interesting words. Like you used the words feel the property, used the words connect with the property. And that's not typically words you hear a lot in like real estate transactions, right? I mean,
Right.
yes, the house people, the house realtors say like, yeah, I want to feel themselves. And people start talking about where they're going to put their furniture, you're close to getting an offer on the house. But the exact same thing applies here too. Now, what kind of stuff do you guys do online in order to bring that across? So do you have every single visitor, do you have some people buy property sight unseen?
Yes, and it's getting to be more of that, I'd say, since COVID, and you interject here whenever we need to. But I think one of the most unique things we have that's exclusive to National Land is our Land Tour 360, which is essentially a virtual tour opportunity that we created and are the only company in the nation that has that, where you can actually take a virtual tour of a piece of property where you start from a bird's eye view at a current drone shot and then drop to a ground level with different media types, photos, text, video, Matterport type tours, all kind of things where basically by the time you come to actually see the property, all you're doing is just confirming what you've already seen.
Very nice. I like that. Now, how many transactions have you facilitated in the land space? Perhaps Jason, if you want to talk to that for a little bit.
Yeah, so in 2021, we did 2,250 land transactions.
2,250, so 2,250 land transaction. That's a good chunk.
Yeah.
That's nice. And you guys, again, you mostly on land.
Yeah, larger
That's really a
tracts.
work niche. How do you get into that?
It was just out of necessity when I was a site selection guy for a development company and just, couldn't find anybody to help me. So I left that job and created a brokerage firm. And I know his family has been in the timber business forever. And we kind of came together from different avenues. I had more of a commercial background. He had more of a rural recreational background. And our company kind of mirrors that. We have a commercial division. We cover all types of land: solar land, oil and gas rights.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, anything you could imagine you could ever do with land.
All right, so if
We've
somebody
done
comes to you with a 100-acre parcel that's like prime for potential development, talk us through the process of that conversation that they might be a wholesaler, they might have it under contract, might looking to resell it, or they might own it for generations in their family.
So if you're looking at it for development, you've got to get approvals from the county, permits, DOT permits. There's a lot that goes. You've got to get zoning, probably have to get a rezoned, site plan approval.
Is that something you guys help with, or is that something you just tell them that they need to do?
We're a resource, so we let them know you need to talk to this engineering firm or this site planner, or here's who you meet with at the county.
You're almost acting like as a consultant to help people through that process, with obviously the expectation that you get the listing at some point of time once it's ready to be sold, right?
Yeah, it's a good point, because that same 100 acres of land, like Clint was talking about, being able to see the vision, we might sell that land to a guy who just wants to deer hunt it, and he might close in 3 weeks.
Right.
But if it's to a developer, it's probably 18 to 24 months before he can close. So there's just so much. When you ride down the highway and you don't think about it, it's just a piece of land over there, but there's so much more to it. Behind the backstory to a tract of land is pretty deep.
And there's so many ways you can actually add value to that land. You can make that land go deer hunting land that it's worth whatever it's worth, or you can take it into 10x, 20x higher value by doing the right things to it.
It could be $3,000 an acre for deer hunting, or it could be $150,000 an acre for a neighborhood.
Yeah, isn't that beautiful? And that's one of the things when I talk to our audience here, that why we love land flipping, right? Because it's not just land flipping. We call it land flipping, or it's land wholesaling, land seller financing. It's land developing. We got in our coaching company, we got students that have taken pieces of land and then split off a parcel and sold it to somebody just for to do nothing with it, but then taking the other piece and went through that process and now building a $20 million assisted living facility on that land, and or split land, develop land, and so it really encompasses everything, and you can do with it so much more than you can do with houses, particularly residential houses in a master plan community. You can't really do anything with those other than rehab them and sell them.
True.
Yeah. So if somebody if somebody truly wants to develop, like for example, one of our students comes to us, we get inquiries from our students all the time saying, hey, I got this property under contract for $6 million, and if I get the right zoning for it, it'll be worth $20 million. As a matter of fact, not our just students. There's actually a gentleman here at this conference that is a master house flipper, came across a deal just like that, and later on I'm going to talk to him about that. Should introduce him to you guys. Perhaps you guys can help him. Mm-hmm. So you guys introduce them then to a potential developer? Is that how it sometimes works?
Yeah, or a builder, but most of the times our client is a developer.
Okay.
And we're introducing, or he's a seller.
Right.
And so he's just a landowner, and we're representing the landowner, and we shop it to different developers. But the most important component is introducing him to the right civil engineering firm, the right attorney that can help him get the most important thing is getting it approved.
Right.
Because we just had a deal in Raleigh, North Carolina, where a client walked away from $800,000 of earnest money.
Wow.
They walked away from it. And so if they had had more information on the front end, they might have had a better chance of getting their approvals and things like that. So it's an expensive game when you get into that arena.
Into that area too. Now, on the flip side of it, perhaps you as a broker, what has been the smallest deal that you guys have brokered?
We actually created an award for that last year. I don't remember what it was. It was like 1 acre or something out in the Midwest that somebody helped, Yeah, the total fee was a few $100s, so we did that just for fun. But we closed just under $1.6 billion in land last year overall across the transactions that Jason mentioned. And I've been in the land business 20 years, both as a broker and an investor and a flipper. And what I've learned is that, flipping is that term is somewhat subjective to the person, because to some people that means I need to be in and out of this land within a few weeks or a few months. To other people, that horizon may be a decade or more. Right. There's so many ways to make money with land, short term and long term, or even just through tax shelter in ways that you can actually sell it for less than you paid for it and still make a profit.
Yeah.
And if you really learn that and understand that, then that it's hard to beat land as an investment, because it reduces a lot of the risk that comes with residential and commercial.
Yes, I 100% agree with you. So now on that point, like a average land transaction on the low end, mid end, and higher end is what kind of dollar ranges are we talking about typically?
Depends on where you are in the country. We've got this broken down by state. We actually provide all this data to the public for free on our website. And you can break it down by county, state, whatever level you want. But where I am in the Southeast, the average ownership size is between 1 and 200 acres.
Okay.
You get out further out in the Midwest or into Texas, those parcels get a lot bigger. Most of the largest transaction I did last year in one drop was about 6,000 acres at a time.
Wow.
We're working on a few that size now.
That's like 9 square miles.
Yeah. Those are always great, but honestly, the most, I'd say the median transactions, it's going to be around that 80.
There's a dollar value. But
dollar value is probably going to be, what, $250,000?
Yeah, 300 grand.
Yeah.
300 grand, okay. And on the low end? Like, and not taking the tiny little deal thing into consideration, more like
75 to 100 grand.
Yeah.
So 75 to 100 grand. So great. So this is definitely you guys are a great option for anyone out there that has a deal in that, let's call it 50 grand and up, kind of price range that would like to have somebody qualified sell these properties. Because again, when we talk to our students, for example, we always warn them about the realtors, and just tell them, like, if you want to use a realtor to sell a piece of land, you better make sure that that's their bread and butter, that they're the one land broker or land agent in that brokerage, or that one land expert in that area, because otherwise you'll not usually find a buyer, or it'll just get much harder unless it's a super hot market. Very, very cool. Anything else special that you guys do? Do you do financing? Do you offer help financing?
We do. We have a lending division called Landline that.
A lending division.
Yeah.
So tell us more about that.
It only finances 10 plus acres, no residential. It's just for hunting land and ag land, timberland. But what I was going to say on the smaller stuff, because I know a lot of flippers are buying smaller lots, and we had a lot of experience with that back in 2010 to 2014 when we were taking over portfolios of properties from banks.
You're right.
And we'd have a lot of smaller parcels, but then they would have a few big ones in there. So we look at it more as a partnership or relationship instead of just a one-off. If somebody has a parcel that's too small or below what we normally do, we're not afraid to take that on because we're looking to build a relationship with that investor, because we know eventually they'll have bigger stuff to sell.
Yeah, makes total sense. So now let's go back to the lending. So 10 acres and plus, hunting land, not residential. What's the thinking behind that?
What's that?
What's the thinking? What's the thought process behind?
Well, we just have restrictions from our money source. Our money comes from Farmer Mac instead of.
So it's
Fannie
farmer
Mae.
money, or is
Yeah.
it? Okay.
Well, it's federal funds. But,
federal funds.
Yeah.
Oh, it has to be going into
So it
more
has
the
to-
agricultural kind of land.
Yeah.
Okay, I see. Okay, interesting. But is that also in all 48 states or 43 states?
Yeah.
All right, interesting. So again, if somebody interested here, somebody's looking to finance some land on the purchasing side, not on the selling side. On the selling side, we do lots of seller financing ourselves. There might be an opportunity to talk to you. Like, how do people find more about you? Where do they go?
Just go to nationalland.com.
Nationalland.com. All right. Yeah. And then there's a bunch of resources, and contact us and forums,
it's all
and
there. And
all the different pieces.
the lending company is called landlinelending.com.
Right.
And you can find it on the National Land website as well.
Awesome. Any last words about land, about what you guys do? Anything you want to say?
No, I just would say that, the more unstable society becomes, it seems like people are looking for something stable, and there's nothing more stable than the ground you're standing on.
What happened in COVID to us is that land blew up, right? Land, all of a sudden, everyone's like perched in their one-bedroom apartment or two-bedroom apartment, became kind of whatever, got like whatever, island fever or something like that, and you need it out. And all of a sudden, people were buying land. The market was hot before. We had a strong market, 17, 18, 19, but 20 hit, COVID hit, and the market just blew up. But it blew up in different ways than I expected. It blew up from my point of view, from people that, partly was the people that just wanted a piece of land to be out there and have space to breathe with their family instead of having their neighbors 3 feet from them. But a lot of people came from the virtual working world. Do you guys see that too?
Yeah.
And what do you think the trajectory of that is? Do you see that phasing down again? Do you see that going on?
No, it opened up. 81% of the U.S. is rural.
Right.
So you've got, 80% of the country is rural in nature. And a lot of the hurdles before were conveniences, restaurants, education, shopping. All those were inconveniences 5 years ago. Well, Amazon, the internet,
Homeschooling.
Homeschooling. All of those were changed through COVID because it became whether you lived in the middle of nowhere or you lived, in a city. When things were shut down, you couldn't go anywhere.
Yeah.
So it opened up doors, and people started looking and realized there's a whole nother opportunity where they can live
and combine that with the fact that now I would estimate about 25-30% of the population can work from home.
Yeah.
That working from home doesn't mean working from home. Working from home means they can move to those 81% rural areas of the U.S. and go back to living small town America, or even outside on 10 acres somewhere, as long as they get internet access and work from there.
Yeah.
Right? You guys, so you see that in your business too?
Yeah, we haven't seen it slow down. It's continued.
And I agree, and I don't think it will slow down. Personal opinion. I think it just because many companies are not going back to all virtual, to all in person, so it'll continue to be strong, in my opinion.
I agree.
Very cool. All right, so with that said, guys, thank you very much for being on the show. We really
Thank you for
appreciate
having
it.
us, yeah.
Guys, again, this concludes our session for today. So if you want to know more about it, again, the website is
nationalland.com.
nationalland.com. Go to nationalland.com, check it out, strike up a relationship, strike up a conversation, and see if there's a synergy for you to be able to work together with these guys, because they are in almost every state in the United States, and they're the experts in land selling. Wow, there we go. That concludes it. As always, if you're watching this on iTunes, give us a 5-star review. If you're watching this on YouTube, give us a thumbs up and follow us, right? Subscribe, share this so we can reach more people and change more lives. Thank you very much. Bye-bye.